Today, we're diving into a major incident that rippled across the internet. The recent Cloudflare outage that caused error messages and service disruptions for websites around the world. If you've ever wondered how one company's internal issue can suddenly break huge chunks of the internet, this story will make things very clear. And it's a perfect example of why Cloudflare outages matter far beyond the company itself. Cloudflare is one of the most important infrastructure providers on the modern web. It handles performance, security, content delivery, and traffic routing for millions of websites and services. Most people never think about it, but Cloudflare sits quietly between you and the site you're trying to reach, helping to protect it from attacks and speed up your connection. So when Cloudflare experiences trouble, that trouble spreads quickly. In this case, it all began late in the morning London time, when reports started pouring in about sites suddenly failing to load. Users around the world were seeing errors that looked like broken applications, failed pages, and unstable services. But the problem wasn't with the websites themselves. Instead, the issue was upstream, inside Cloudflare systems. By the time the company publicly confirmed the outage, a significant portion of the internet had already been affected. The outage followed a familiar pattern that many who work in tech dread. A single configuration file, which Cloudflare automatically generates to manage traffic and identify potential threats, grew larger than expected. That file reached a size their system wasn't designed to handle. The software responsible for processing it crashed. When that crucial component failed, it disrupted the flow of internet traffic across some of the company's key services. In simpler terms, one internal failure created a domino effect. What's important to understand is that this wasn't caused by a cyber attack or any type of malicious activity. Cloudflare was clear about that. There was no sign of hacking, no DDoS assault overwhelming the system, and no exploitation of a vulnerability. This was a self-inflicted technical issue, a scalability problem in a place where failure simply has enormous consequences. The scale of the impact highlighted a larger and ongoing concern in today's digital world. The concentration of power among a small number of infrastructure providers. When a company like Cloudflare hiccups, the rest of the internet coughs. Websites that depend on Cloudflare were perfectly healthy. Their servers were running, their databases were fine, but many of them were still unavailable simply because the traffic that routes users to those sites was broken. It's an example of how interconnected our systems have become and how much trust is placed in these gateway providers. By mid-afternoon, Cloudflare announced that they had implemented a fix. Services began recovering, and traffic gradually normalized. The company continued to monitor for aftershocks and apologized directly, saying they had let the internet down that day. It was a rare moment of transparency and a reminder that even technologically sophisticated companies can run into surprisingly basic issues. But the real significance of the outage goes beyond the immediate disruption. It forces businesses and developers to think more seriously about resilience. Many sites rely on Cloudflare for speed, security, and protection from attacks. But relying on one provider always carries a risk. A single point of failure, even at the infrastructure level, can still bring entire services offline. The incident is already raising discussions about whether companies need stronger fallback plans, more diversified providers, or better internal monitoring that catches issues before they escalate into global outages. It also highlights how complex automated systems have become. The configuration file that caused all this trouble wasn't manually created. It was automatically generated by Cloudflare's own processes. Automation is powerful, but also means that a seemingly small oversight can scale out of control very quickly. Cloudflare will almost certainly publish a deeper postmortem explaining why the file grew so large, why safeguards didn't catch the problem, and what steps they'll take to ensure it doesn't happen again. From the perspective of everyday internet users, incidents like this help explain why sometimes websites stop working for no obvious reason. It's not always the site's fault. It might not even be your internet connection. Sometimes the issue is buried deep in the infrastructure layers that glue everything together. And Cloudflare outages offer a clear example of how hidden those layers usually are, right up until they fail. As the internet continues to grow more centralized, and as more websites rely on the same handful of infrastructure companies, the stakes of outages like this will only increase. The hope is that every major incident leads to more robust systems, better testing, and improved redundancy. But it's also a reminder that even well-established giants can break in unexpected ways. This outage wasn't the result of an attack, a failure in cybersecurity, or some external force. It was a simple internal miscalculation. Yet that single mistake sent ripples through the global internet. It shows just how fragile the web can be in certain places, and why ongoing scrutiny of these core providers is more important than ever. Cloudflare apologized for letting the internet down, but the bigger lesson is that the internet is only as reliable as the systems that support it. And as long as companies like Cloudflare sit at the center of so much online activity, outage events like these will always be worth paying attention to.